Live from Johnny's Tavern in West Lawrence, this is Hawk Talk with Bill Self on the Jayhawk IMG Sports Network. In the next hour, Coach Self will break down your Jayhawks and take your questions at 1-800-845-HAWK. That's 1-800-845-HAWK. Hawk Talk with Bill Self is presented by Boulevard Brewing Company, local since 1989. Capital Federal Savings, celebrating 125 years. By Johnny's Tavern, serving up tradition since 1953 in the Lawrence and Kansas City area. And by Intrust Bank, proud supporter of Kansas athletics. Now, alongside Coach Self, here's your host, the voice of the Jayhawks, Brian Haney.
Good evening and welcome into Hawk Talk. Coming at you live from Johnny's Tavern, West Lawrence. Brian Haney and head coach Bill Self with you for the next 60 minutes right here on the Jayhawk Network. Thanks for joining us. We're at 6th and Wakarusa in West Lawrence. And if you can't join us in person, you can call into the show at 1-800-845-HAWK. That's 1-800-845-4295. You can also submit your questions and comments for Coach anytime throughout the week at KUathletics.com or on Facebook or Twitter. Your Jayhawks are still 7th ranked nationally. They've won 3 in a row, half a game back of first place. Congrats on another win last night, Coach.
Can you hear me now?
I got you.
No, it was a good game. It was a good win. We had to play very well. You know, obviously to beat a team that played very well, and certainly I think what's great is we're able to keep our fans entertained to the very last second of every game. So, who could ask for more than that? But it was we had some individual really good performances, but it was a good team win.
No doubt, 80-78 winners over a good Texas team that came in only averaging about 8 3-point makers per game, and they hit 13 last night. And really down the stretch, we saw Febris make it interesting, certainly. But your team shot it well as well, including Marcus Garrett, who matched his career high in the first 9 minutes of the game and would go on to best it by 7 more points. 20 out of Garrett last night, and yet maybe his best contribution came with that tie-up he got late in regulation.
Yeah, Marcus is a really good player, and I hope our fans appreciate who he is and what he does. I think so often, he's not a flamboyant guy. He's not a look-at-me guy, and he's certainly a person that if you really don't appreciate what makes teams better. Sometimes he can go unnoticed, but he doesn't with our guys. We all recognize his value, but still, though, it's nice when you make some shots offensively and get some confidence. And we saw offensively what he can do when he is confident, though. I mean, and don't just talk about just the shots, but how good he was with his handle. He gets to the hole as well as anybody, and he finished around the rim very well. I was really happy for him, and being from Texas and just like I don't know that this be the case at all. So I'm not saying this in a way that I know. But if you grow up as a kid in Kansas, there's a chance you probably would like to play at Kansas or Kansas State, and I'm nothing against Wichita State. I'm not saying that, but you would think that and you grow up in Texas. You're probably going to dream of playing at, Texas or A&M or whatnot, and to see him play like he did against the Longhorns, I know meant a lot to him.
That was pretty special, no doubt. We talked about him earlier in the season as a really mentally tough guy that would accept any defensive assignment, whether it was somebody his size or somebody Zion Williamson's size. Give me him, I want to guard him. And that, to me, kind of reminds me of your mental toughness. Do you see any extension of yourself in him in terms of I'll take on all comers?
Well, first of all, I don't know what brought up reference Duke. I mean, we're talking.
They did lose last night. We won. How about that?
We're talking about Kansas, and but the fact that he can guard the smallest guy on the team and probably do as good a job as anybody on our team guarding the smallest guy, with maybe the exception of Devon. Devon's a good on-the-ball defender himself, and then at times guard the biggest guy on the other team and probably do as good a job defending him as anybody on our team. I think speaks volumes to his value. And certainly, he's not a real vertical athlete, and he's not real big. from a physical standpoint, but he is wiry strong, and he understands angles defensively, and the tie-up that you referenced early on was a huge play. I don't know what we were up when that occurred. I think we may have been up 3. If I'm not mistaken, when that occurred.
Was it 2 and then because LeGerald hit the 3 right after that?
Well, yeah. you probably know better than me, but it was a huge play for us. So
phenomenal, no doubt, and big line for him last night. And speaking of LeGerald, obviously it was great to see him shooting it so well. Back-to-back performances in which he's hit at least 5 threes. He's done that 5 times this year. Obviously, you're going to have some ebb and flow and ups and downs over the course of a 35-game season, but clearly on an uptick in shooting the basketball is LeGerald Vick.
Yeah, Saturday was LeGerald's birthday, and he played really. I mean, he played really well at Baylor, and Baylor's a hard team for us for a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons is we've been so inconsistent shooting the basketball. And when a team plays zone, you would think that's one of the best ways that you can attack a zone is maybe, make some spread them and make some threes. And we haven't been able to shoot the ball well, but we shot it pretty well against Baylor. I don't know what we ended up. I think it may have been 9 of 16. It was 9 of 16, yep. And then last night we were 11 of 22. So that's great that we shot the 3 that well. It's sad that we shot free throws the exact same way that we shot the 3. So you would think he'd probably shoot a little bit better, but LeGerald's on it. He shot it well, and I'd like to say he's on an uptick, but shooting is so you're right, ebbs and flows. You look at James Harden. The other night, he scored over 30, like how many games in a row now in the NBA? Yeah. 17 or 18. It's like the all-time record for the most consecutive games scoring 30 in a game. And one of the games he scored 30 in, he was 1 of 17 from 3. And you think he went home and thought about, oh, geez, what's wrong with my shot? Right. The next night he gets 56. So it's just, shooting's just one of those things. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but we need LeGerald to be pretty consistent.
So does the same then apply to free throw shooting?
No.
In theory, this should be a good free throw shooting team, right? Is this just a little blip on the radar?
Where are you coming up with that?
Well, you lose Udoka the rest of the way.
We should be shooting 4 guards. We should be shooting a lot better from the line, considering Doak's not out there.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. To be candid, but we're well under 70% for the season, and I remember. There's been some years where I thought we were a poor free throw shooting team and we'd shoot 72 or 73 for the year. And this year, you're exactly right. We haven't shot it very well from the line or consistently well. But you look at it. Diedrich shoots more than anybody else, and he's a good free throw shooter, and he goes 5 of 8 last night. And Marcus, who had the game of his life, and he goes 1 for 4 last night, and so you got those 2 guys, that are 6 of 12, where you would think that'd be better. And really Devon's been as good a clutch free throw shooter as we've had all year. But we don't have yet, and I emphasize yet, a guy that is going to make 80%. But although I do think we're capable, and then our bench hasn't shot free throws near as well, and it's really not fair to them because. Well, it's life, but when you play limited minutes and get limited opportunities, you don't have a chance maybe to see the ball go in or whatever. And Mitch is a much better shooter than what he's shown, especially from the line. But he just hasn't seen the ball go in. But he's certainly capable of being much better.
Well, I'm sure those numbers will be on the climb. Another win for Kansas last night, 80-78. We'll spend some more time breaking that down. We'll take a look from kind of a bird's eye view on the Big 12 race right now as well. We'll take some audience questions, and we invite those phone calls as well, 1-800-845-HAWK if you'd like to call us up and ask a question of Coach. Hawk Talk is sponsored by Delta Dental of Kansas. Protect your healthy smile. Learn more about individual and family plans at deltadentalks.com. More Hawk Talk coming up from Johnny's Tavern West Lawrence on the Equity Bank Jayhawk IMG Sports Network.
When you believe, you inspire. When you love, you dream. When you breathe, you create. When you laugh, you cry. And when you're reliable, you trust. Capital Federal, predictably true blue.
When we were caregiving for Grandma and Grandpa in their room, they wanted a certain temperature, and you could regulate and keep their temperature in that room instead of all of us sweating bullets in the house.
Kate's servicemen really understood our needs. We spoke to them about the grandparents' room. They wanted that one room very, very warm, and they were able to accomplish that. We know when we walk in the door, the temperature's going to be right where we like it. So it's been wonderful having Kate's heating and cooling. We love it.
Diagnostic Imaging Centers has always been at the forefront of new technology, delivering innovative solutions to patients for more than 50 years, right here in Kansas City. From the bumps and bruises of childhood to the joys of starting your very own family and the peace of mind you get from a routine screening, Diagnostic Imaging Centers is building the future so you can focus on yours.
Here in Kansas, we're blessed with an abundance of oil and natural gas energy, as well as many other natural resources. Some folks say that producing oil and natural gas harms our farms and ranches. The truth is, oil and gas leasing and production are vital to sustaining Kansas farms and ranches from one generation to the next. We work together, and over the past 40 years, there has not been a single instance of groundwater pollution from hydraulic fracturing or injection wells in Kansas by our industry. Get the facts at kansasstrong.com.
You may not hear it at first, but it's there. Our chant, rising. On this summit, callings converge, voices unify into a chorus that sounds out for good, for greatness. Can you hear it?
Over to Ochai now. Abaji driving left baseline. They kick it out. 6 to shoot. Garrett for 3. He got it! Marcus Garrett has a pair of triples, and KU's lead is 6. What a start for Marcus Garrett last night. What a game throughout for Marcus Garrett. Kansas wins it 80-78 over Texas. Your Jayhawks are 4-1 in their pursuit of 15 straight. Welcome back to Hawk Talk, coming at you live from Johnny's Tavern, West Lawrence. Thanks for joining us tonight. Hawk Talk is brought to you by Diagnostic Imaging Centers, centered on you, and by Intrust Bank, a proud supporter of the Kansas Athletics Department. All right, Coach, another close one last night, and I know you told Greg Gurley afterwards, all these games are going to be close.
Yeah,
the league is just that good, right? And Kansas is a younger team. It's going to be tested every night, right?
Well, I think the league is that good. It's that deep. But also, I don't know that we're a team that can consistently separate like maybe some of our teams could in the past. And that I did not say not as good. I'm just saying that there's some parts of our team that we can certainly have some lulls. We're an inconsistent shooting team, so you're going to have periods of time in a game where you can kind of go have some droughts and things like that. We don't score in transition near as well as what some other teams we've had. So we kind of have to kind of manufacture some things. Whenever you shoot a high percentage, you usually do it because you shoot 40% or whatever on real shots, and then you get 10 layups a game off of transition or offensive putbacks and things like that. And we're small, so we're not a team that gets near as many of those type plays, and so that kind of lessens our margin of error or whatever. So it's not being negative at all. It's just kind of who we are, and so we got to learn to grind and do some things. The exciting thing about it, to me, is I think that we can become even a better defensive team. We don't have rim protection, but what we do, we have some interchangeable parts, and I would think that we're going to continue to get better defensively. I thought last night we actually played pretty good defense. We did what we were supposed to do. They made some threes in the first half, but we took away the paint for the most part, and they're a 32% three-point shooting team, so we were going to make them at least try to make at least contested threes, and we actually did a pretty good job with that for the most part. They just got hot, but there were some good things defensively, but they were very good offensively last night, and fortunately we didn't play great the last 4 minutes defensively, but for the most part I thought we did okay.
Speaking of your defense, what would you say is your ideal, optimal defensive lineup? Which five?
Well, that's really not a fair question because it's not like hockey or you can, or football where you can play somebody on offense and then take them out on defense. So
sure.
You can't really have if you're going to put our 5 best defenders out there, you know that it would be potentially Marcus and LeGerald and Devon and Ochai on the perimeter. Those would be our 4 best perimeter defenders, and then who would you play at the post? Well, you got to have Diedrich in there. And Diedrich is not a bad defender at all. He's just not, he's a small guy trying to guard a 5, and that's really, not really fair to him. But that's just the way it is, and the way that we play is he can help others, but it's harder for others to help him. And without going into detail, because of rotations and how we play. So that's one thing about Doak or having a big body out there, is that they don't force you to double team and do some things a lot of times, which allows you to not get into rotations and things like that. And so Diedrich's got to get a little bit better defending the post, but we got to have him in the game without question because of offense, and then if you're going to play man-to-man, you don't want to put him in a situation where he's got 2 fouls in the first 10 minutes also. So
sure.
we've still got to figure some things out defensively, but I do think we're making some progress there.
If you were eventually to get some good news on Silvio De Sousa, how much could he help in that defensive equation?
Well, I think well, there's no question he could help, but the biggest thing is that it allows Diedrich to play without worrying about fouling,
right?
Because you automatically have depth, there immediately. So, but we shouldn't even talk about that because it's a hypothetical still. But certainly, if it does come to be, we'll be a better team. We're not approaching it any different than the way we've approached it so far. Is you hope for the best, but you got to prepare for not the best, and so that's what we've been doing.
You gave a brief update in the post game last night about Silvio. Anything more to report 24 hours later?
I really didn't give an update. I said the update is we don't know. Mm-hmm. And that's still the case, Brian. We don't know. There's been some media reports out there that I'm not saying accurate or inaccurate, but it's a report that basically stated the obvious. I mean, there's no reason why, if you believe your kid should be playing, why you wouldn't try to, get him where he can play. So nothing was reported that was any earth-shattering news at all. But the timing of it is what is the situation, and we don't know what that timing is. We hope that we'll hear something soon. But when you hear something soon, that doesn't mean it's going to be positive. But certainly we can hope for that.
All right. Appreciate you chiming in on that. We'll get into these audience questions when we come back here in just a bit. We'll also take your phone calls, 1-800-845-HAWK. That's 1-800-845-4295. The temperature is dropping, but the Jayhawks are heating up. Cheer louder and watch longer with an unfiltered wheat beer. Boulevard Brewing Company, local since 1989. More with head coach Bill Self coming up from Johnny's Tavern, West Lawrence on the Equity Bank Jayhawk IMG Sports Network. the stop and go. Banks it home. Can you believe it? Marcus Garrett with 17 first half points. More highlights from last night's win over Texas, 80-78. The Jayhawks victorious. And in that call, I said, can you believe it? 17 points for Garrett. What were you thinking watching all this unfold? Because I'm sure you've seen glimpses of this in practice, and yet the numbers would indicate coming in this was an 18% three-point shooter. But back-to-back threes, 13 consecutive points at one point. What was the coach's reaction?
There's no reaction. I mean, I was happy that he was doing it, but I don't think that you coach a game and then, saying, "Oh God, we're watching something really special." I mean, it's just the next play. So I don't think if a guy has back-to-back 10-yard runs, you're saying, "Oh God, he's just doing so good." No, you got to run the next play and figure out how to gain 10 more again. So I was happy for Marcus because He obviously hasn't shot the ball consistently well from the perimeter, but we saw a glimpse of what he's capable of doing. And even though he's not going to go make 3 in a row in 5 minutes or 7 minutes, whatever it was, every game, nobody's going to do that. But the fact that that he's got it in him. What I was more excited about is that he was aggressive. It's hard to score if you're not aggressive, and he was certainly aggressive.
Certainly great to see, indeed. Whether it's that performance out of him or the 18 that Charlie Moore had versus South Dakota, for the young man to see the ball go through the hoop like that surely will pay dividends as the season goes on. We invite your questions. If you want to call us up at 1-800-845-HAWK. You can also text us at 234-25-HAWKS, 234-25-HAWKS. If you'd rather send in a text message. We're at Johnny's Tavern, West Lawrence, 6th and Wakarusa. And for a great local sports bar, visit one of Johnny's Tavern's 10 area locations. Let's get to some in-house audience questions. Renee Kaufman is with us. And she says, Devon Dotson appears to have great form shooting a jump shot. Can he develop into a consistent three-point threat similar to Frank and Devontae?
Sure he can. Yeah, and she's right. He does have good form. That that one he made to start the second half was guarded and he had to get it off quick. And so absolutely he'll continue to develop and get better. So I don't think that. I think Frank and Devontae were probably a little bit further ahead in that area when they first got here, but I think there's some areas that Devon is definitely ahead of those guys when they first got here also. But they're different. But I think comparing Devon to Devontae is a little bit of a reach because their games are totally different. But to Frank, I do see, some similarities, even though Frank developed. I mean, he's National Player of the Year, so, we shouldn't be comparing Devon to that, but to Devon and Frank as both as freshmen, I'd say, Devon is further along at the same stage.
No doubt. Off to a terrific start is Devon Dotson. All right, Betty wants to know, Coach, we like the four-guard lineup. Do you see your coaching style trending toward this permanently?
I think that it would be nice if you could recruit, strictly to needs. So if you're in a situation like in football and you need a quarterback, you can go out and recruit a quarterback. Or if you need a cornerback, you can go recruit a cornerback. Or if you need a lineman, you can go recruit a lineman. In basketball, you don't really say we're going to recruit a 2 or a 3 or a 4. I think in a perfect world you can, but I think the game has changed so much that now basketball has become an interchangeable part game. It used to be, well, he's our point. I tell you, that's one thing I always admired about Roy's teams is you knew exactly who the point guard was and who his backup was. You knew exactly who the 2 was and who his backup was. Gurley knew that he was definitely going to be a backup, but he was going to back up who he is going to back up and sure. that kind of stuff. I mean, you knew that, right. and then, but that's not the game. Has changed in that, now you can play a 4-man as your center. You can play 3-point guards. It's just. Everything is off the bounce now. Everything's ball screen driven and things like that. So you have more interchangeable parts. And so I think the way you play is, based on your personnel. So I would rather just say, let's get the best players we can and kind of figure it out after we get them, rather than say that I'm only going to recruit him because I like guards. Well, if we could play 2 really good bigs, we'll play 2 really good bigs. So it would just be based on our personnel.
If you could get a Josh Jackson type at the 4 spot every year, you might go with this mode of thinking, but they don't grow on trees, right? So best of what's available.
Josh was a special one, no question.
No doubt. All right, how about a fun question? Lenny from McPherson writes in, I grew up with one of our close friends in Illinois with men's basketball coach at Illinois, Brad Underwood. He says, Brad says that he could take you one-on-one in a best-of-3 series. Do you think that's true, or is Brad too full of himself? This is from Lenny.
I would say that looking at Brad and looking at me, that neither one are probably conditioned well enough to actually play 3 games of one-on-one, and so no, Brad, he's a year behind me, and so I've said it before. I showed him around on his visit to Oklahoma State, and he was a nice player, but I was actually hoping we'd get him pretty bad, because I thought that would be good for me, because I'd play more if we signed Brad. But he's a terrific coach. So yeah. When he gets his guys in there at Illinois, they're going to be. Illinois is such a good job, and they're going to be very competitive in the Big Ten. But it's hard just to get going. But I think Brad's and myself, hopefully, we're both a little bit better at our trade than we were at playing, because neither one of us were that good.
Your one-on-one
score may be 0-0.
Your one-on-one days may be over, but you still play a lot of golf, and you can strike it pretty dang well. Who's the best golfer amongst the college basketball coaches that you might play with from time to time?
I don't get a chance to play with very many, but you start thinking of Ricardo Patton is probably the best I've played with.
Really?
He was, a terrific golfer, but Lon Kruger's really a good golfer. And I know that there's many more out there. Roy plays a lot, and he's a really good golfer. I played with Roy one time in Tulsa area, and yeah, he had a great day. The day that I played with him, but that stuff used to be pretty important to me. That I'd really like to, be really good at that. But when you're not very good at it, and you keep thinking that you're going to get better and you never do, then it really doesn't mean quite as much, as what it did when I was younger.
What would you say you're most competitive at other than hoops?
Well, I don't know, probably golf, but I don't know. I get real enjoyment from basketball and the games. I think that a lot of coaches say, which I can certainly understand, that they really don't like the games. They like practice, yeah. and I like practice, but I love the games. Yeah. I love the games. I just think there's something about it when it's a 2-point game with 5 minutes left. That to me is what's fun and everything. Of course, we certainly made that our expertise. This year, which we need to change without question and become better in some situations. But to me, that's what's fun, and it's not that I have an impact over how the game goes. It's just the fact of being a part of it, and I do love I do love that.
Best close game coach in Kansas basketball history, am I right?
No.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, when we come back, we'll take your phone calls, 1-800-845-HAWK. Again, you can text us if you'd like to do that, 234-25-HAWKS, plus more in-house audience questions. We'll take a look at who is impressing coach around the rest of the league. Plus, we have to spin the wheel in about 10 minutes as well, so stay tuned. All of that and more still coming your way. Hawk Talk is brought to you by Jana King, the official cleaning partner of Kansas Athletics. More coming up on the Equity Bank Jayhawk IMG Sports Network.
Diagnostic Imaging Centers has always been at the forefront of new technology, delivering innovative solutions to patients for more than 50 years, right here in Kansas City. From the bumps and bruises of childhood to the joys of starting your very own family and the peace of mind you get from a routine screening, Diagnostic Imaging Centers is building the future so you can focus on yours.
When you believe, you inspire. When you love, you dream. When you breathe, you create. When you laugh, you cry. And when you're reliable, you trust. Capital Federal, predictably true blue.
A smile, such a simple gesture, an effortless contraction of muscles, a flash of teeth. Healthy smiles have the power to spread joy, courage, and love. When you smile, it transforms you and the world around you. So if you feel the urge, go ahead and use that simple gesture to spread joy. Keep your smile healthy and strong. Choose Delta Dental for your individual or family plan, protecting more smiles than anyone.
Hello, Kansas. We're your energy industry. In the past, we've shown you beautiful slow-motion images of gorgeous Kansas sunsets, basketball games, and other images that promote our industry. But right now, it's important that you know the facts, like the fact that during the past 40 years, there has not been a single instance of groundwater pollution from hydraulic fracturing or injection wells in Kansas by our industry. We respect our state and its natural resources. Get the facts at kansasstrong.com.
Did you get your new Truity Visa card yet? You'll save money with 1.99 APR for 15 months. That's right, 1.99 APR with any new Truity Visa card. This rate's good on all purchases and cash advances for the first 15 months. What are you waiting for? Start saving money today. TruityCU.org/credit cards. With approved credit, come in or go online for details.
Backdoor cut to Grimes, juggled on the catch. They kick it out. Vick open for three. He got it. LaGerald Vick, a fourth three-pointer tonight. The fifth time this year he's done that. How about LaGerald Vick? 11 threes in his last two games for the Kansas senior out of Memphis. Welcome back to Hawk Talk, coming at you live from Johnny's Tavern, West Lawrence. Don't miss Jayhawk coverage on Xfinity X1, channel 258. This week it's men's basketball on Saturday versus the West Virginia Mountaineers. Jayhawk Game Day Live comes your way at 12:30, 30 minutes prior to tip-off. Coach Bill Self's with us. If you'd like to ask Coach a question, you can dial us up at 1-800-845-HAWK. That's 1-800-845-4295. Coach, folks always wonder in that month or 5 weeks, as it may be, period between semesters when all the players have to focus on is ball, just where the most improvement can come. And certainly since our last Hawk Talk episode, we've had 3 straight wins for the Jayhawks, and seems like there's a lot of improvement coming and taking care of the basketball. Where have you seen the most strides made in that regard?
Well, I would say that our teams historically have never been an unbelievable ball security type team. If you look at it and you see some of the teams that have the least number of turnovers is often because they want the ball in one person's hands the vast majority of the time. And so if you have a point guard like a Monty Morse, let's say, that was just fabulous, he's not going to turn it over much, and he's the one that makes the pass to finish the plays. That's how it's kind of designed. And we used to play that way quite a bit when we had Aaron Miles. I wanted him to be the one to make the pass to finish the play. And so But here in the last several years, we've become kind of more of an equal opportunity team as far as everybody handles and everybody does that. So when you do that, a lot of times you put the ball in guys' hands that maybe aren't, a true point guard, and you're asking them to maybe do some things. And so, you turn it over, but it also creates more balance, and guys can get better that way. So, we played Iowa State, and that was comical. We looked like the Monstars in Space Jam. We lost all of our athletic ability as far as taking care of the basketball, but since then, we've won some games, and they've been close games for the most part, but. Our ball security's been a lot better, and last night was a really fast game. I mean, it was fast. There was a lot of possessions, and we didn't have our first turnover till 15 minutes left in the second half, and only had 4 for the game. Now the negative is they only had 6, so that was a pretty well played game. But when you don't turn it over, even if you take a bad shot, it has a chance to go in. When you do turn it over, you got no chance, and 50% of them are probably live ball turnovers that lead to transition situations. So that's an area we got to continue to work on and get better, and our chances to win will definitely be enhanced. But you go on the road and you have 24 turnovers, it's not going to be pretty. So hopefully, we're playing West Virginia, and they're going to get after us. They always do, and so we anticipate having turnovers. But we certainly need to continue to limit them.
We'll preview the Mountaineers coming up later in the show. How about some Big 12 observations in general? Obviously, Texas Tech still has a half-game lead on our Jayhawks. They're somewhat of a surprise to still be perfect at this point, but a lot of folks thought they'd be good. Who else has surprised you above preseason expectation?
Well, to me, Iowa State has, and they're 2-2. If I'm not mistaken, right. and they go to Tech tomorrow, I believe.
Yep.
But I don't know that anybody's been a major surprise. That win that K-State had at Iowa State was an unbelievable win. I mean, that was a game in which they controlled the game, and then they kind of lost it a little bit, and then they made some unbelievable plays late. Barry Brown was terrific and made some unbelievable plays to get that win. And those are the games that you have to win to have a great season. You're going to play in those games, and let's say you get 4 of those in the conference season, you go 3-1, you're going to be terrific. If you go 1-3 in those coin flip games or whatnot, and then you're finishing 9-9. So it's just such a fine line when everybody's good to win. But I don't know that anybody's really stood out to me other than Texas Tech. I think everybody else is really, really, really good, but I think Tech is a team that has a chance to be a Final Four team. I really believe that.
Not many would have said that after all that they lost from a year ago.
They lost 3 starters, yeah.
But I know you're a huge fan of Chris Beard, the job he's done, and obviously Jarrett Culver, a very special talent.
He is, but he is a special talent, but that's not what makes him special. But what makes him special is they're just so good defensively and they play so hard. But you look at our league. One thing that I would say, our league is better defensively than it's been in a long time. I think that there were years we scored the ball easier as a league as a whole than we do this year. But this year it seems like to me that it's hard to get baskets and. We've obviously only played 5 games and haven't seen everybody yet, but there's a lot of improved teams on the defensive end.
No doubt. Well, thanks for the breakdown. As I said, we'll talk more West Virginia in particular later in the show. Before we get out to break, I know you don't get your jollies on individual honors, especially mid-season individual honors, but earlier today it was announced Dedrick Lawson is a Sporting News mid-season All-American. He's one off the nation lead in double-doubles. Just a comment, if you would, on the start he's had to his Jayhawk career and what you think he could do even better in the second half of the season.
Well, Dedrick is, he's a terrific player, and I think the one thing that he can probably still do better is I think he can score more points because he can shoot the ball more consistently, better than what he's probably shot it. So I still think his upside is higher. It's just a situation with him asking a lot, Hey, we want you to post up against a bigger guy and guys laying on you, and we need to move you around more, and you have to be our best defensive rebounder, and you got to play 36 minutes a game, and you can't get in foul trouble, and you have to be our best passer. And so there's a lot of ands in there, but that's what All-Americans do. All-Americans play to that, and so I'm real pleased with him. But I think he'd be the first to tell you, real pleased. But hey, there's room for growth with all our guys. So.
Sure, Absolutely. All right, when we come back, we're going to spin the wheel with Coach. We'll take some more audience questions as well. The fun continues from Johnny's Tavern, West Lawrence on the Equity Bank Jayhawk IMG Sports Network. Osikowski facing up on Diedrich, drives on him, backs down, Garrett comes in, tries to get a tie-up, he did! Marcus Garrett, for all his brilliance offensively, just made his biggest play on the other side of the floor. That was our pick for play of the game. I think Coach agreed. A huge effort by Marcus Garrett on the defensive end to go along with his career-high 20 points. All a part of KU's 80-78 win over Texas. Welcome back to Hawk Talk, live from Johnny's Tavern, West Lawrence. First National Bank offers you the chance to be an honorary captain, receive game tickets, an autographed ball, a VIP tour of Allen Fieldhouse, and more. Register at any First National Bank branch or visit fnbo.com/Jayhawks, member FDIC. In just a second, we will spin the wheel and hear from somebody asking Coach a question. But let's squeeze in one more in-house audience question first. Judy's with us tonight, and she said, Coach, at the beginning of the season on Hawk Talk, you were asked to describe your team in one word, and the word you used at the time was frustrating. She says, what word would you choose mid-season to describe this team?
That's, I think I pretty much nailed it the first time that I said it. I don't know. I'd say competitive. I think that'd be a good word to use. I think they're competitive. I also would say inconsistent. But I think the positive, the compliment of the thing is I do think they're competitive. I think they like it when it's hot, and that's always a good sign with your team.
And you'll tolerate some inconsistency when you have so many new faces and new pieces out there working together for the first time. Heck, there was one lineup last night. You had all four freshmen and Marcus Garrett on the floor. At what point do they kind of graduate into that level of having played 25, 30 games and you expect more consistency?
Well, I would say with Quentin and Devon, they played enough. Yeah. It's not really fair for Ochai or David, whatnot. But we do have a young team, and without Doak, you've only got LeGerald that has really played major minutes for us. Mitch did some last year, but Marcus did some as a freshman. But that's a really pretty young team, and Diedrich would be your second most experienced guy, obviously, and behind LeGerald. But that's a pretty young team. But people don't care about that. And like I said before, you go to a school in large part because there's immediate opportunity for some of these kids. Well, if there's immediate opportunity, and that's why you pick a school, then you should still be expected to do the same things that the veterans did before. If you pick it because it's immediate opportunity, you don't come in and say, okay, we're going to go real slow with you. You want it, so you got to do it. And I do think that for the most part we can get better at that, because I don't think that there is a vocal leader yet, and we do miss Devontae in that area. I don't know that we'll ever have one better than him at that. And the other thing that's a little bit that's tougher is Devontae, was under Frank, and Frank was under guys, and everybody, the old teaches young. Well, in this particular situation, it's a young teaching the young, and so we haven't. I think that's an area that sometimes you take for granted. But certainly our guys have done pretty well, but we can certainly be a lot better in those intangibles.
We asked you 3 games ago about developing more of a vocal leader out there, and you talked about Diedrich as an option, Devon as an option.
Well, everybody's an option.
Sure.
Yeah, but I don't think that's something that's quite as natural as, it takes no courage to be excited when things are going well, or enthusiastic, or talking more. Where you need your leadership is when, hey, it gets a little bit hectic or a little crazy, and momentum's lost, and it doesn't look good, and those sort. That's where you need it. I mean, if anybody, I shouldn't say anybody, but it's not as hard to do it when things are going well.
Right.
But when things aren't going well, who's going to rally the troops and everything? And that's something that obviously Devontae wasn't good at. He was exceptional. And then you had Frank, who was the leader of the team,
right,
even more so than Devontae. And then you had Josh, who was the alpha dog of the team, even more so than Frank in some ways. And then you had Landon, who was obviously as bright a player. So those are some things that with youth sometimes it takes a while to develop.
If you took their positions out of it, and I just asked you from a personality standpoint, who inherently is most naturally built to be that guy, personality-wise, who would you say?
I'd say probably Devon, or Marcus. I'd probably say those two as much as anybody.
Both playing well of late. Hopefully that continues to blossom. All right, let's spin the wheel. Before we do, we added a new name this week because we had Quentin Grimes last week ask a question. We asked R.C. Buford, who was in the house last night, GM of the San Antonio Spurs, one of your very best friends and your son's boss. We had a question last week that we ran out of time for. Somebody was asking, can you give us a Tyler Self update? So just in case the R.C. Buford tile comes up here, how's Tyler enjoying his second year working with the Spurs?
Oh, he loves it. Yeah, he loves it. He's learned a lot, and they've given him quite a bit of responsibility, but just like anybody else is trying to, learn a new trade and learn the business, he's got to grind a little bit, and certainly, you play basketball at Kansas or the other schools in our state, respectively, and maybe you get treated a little bit different as far as travel and everything is kind of made to be a little bit easier for you, and he's learning out what real life is all about. Yeah, so which is good, but he's learned a lot.
But to learn under you at Kansas and then under R.C. Buford at San Antonio, one of the finest organizations in all of professional sports, 2 pretty good organizations, I'd say, to cut your teeth. All right, that's the wheel, as you can see. We do this each and every week. We previously recorded questions from some basketball celebrities, current players, all kinds of fun stuff. Coach will spin the wheel, and we'll see who we hear from today. Wow, how about that? You'd think we practiced this. R.C. Buford.
Oh, great, great.
It's like a 1 in 14 chance of having that happen. Here he is, the GM of the San Antonio Spurs.
Hey, Bill, it's RC. I've always wanted to know what this BS is about big school and little school players of the year in high school in Oklahoma. So who was really player of the year, you or Joe Atkinson?
I think by BS he meant Bill Self. Those are your initials, right?
Yeah. No, that's not what he meant at all. But, well, you know, in Oklahoma, back in the day, they did a big school, which is, you know, the obviously the larger high schools with more students, and then they did a smaller one. And my teammate at OSU was terrific. Fans won't remember him because he got hurt. His career ended early, but he was, you know, arguably the best shot blocker in the country, and he could score and everything. And so he won Little School Player of the Year. So obviously it didn't mean near as much as winning the big school Player of the Year, but he was twice the player I was, without question. So, but you know, back when I played high school ball, you know, Joe was the best player in our class, but right behind us was a guy named Mark Price and a guy named Wayman Tisdale, and you know, so I mean, there were some good players there back then. So it was a pretty good time, and when I was coming up, because basketball was just on the scene. You know, it's always been on the scene in Kansas, but you know, Oklahoma football dominated everything. And Nolan had just gotten to Tulsa with Paul Pressey and all that group, and they won the NIT, which was a huge deal. I mean, think about winning the NIT here. It would be like, you didn't go to the NCAA tournament, but there was no juice, no interest, and when they won the NIT. And then started getting in the tournament every year, and then Billy went to Oklahoma and recruited Wayman, which changed everything for our sport. Yeah. Probably the most dynamic personality guy you could ever have, and totally changed the sport and making every kid want to play ball, that kind of stuff. So it was kind of a fun time to be a part of it.
But Bill Self was the big school Oklahoma Player of the Year in what year?
When was that? 98?
98, yeah, exactly. Same year I graduated high school. That's why we look so similar. Good stuff. R.C. Buford, thank you so much for the question. We'll come back and wrap up the program right after this on the Equity Bank Jayhawk IMG Sports Network.
When we were caregiving for Grandma and Grandpa in their room, they wanted a certain temperature, and you could regulate and keep their temperature in that room instead of all of us sweating bullets in the house.
Kate's servicemen really understood our needs. We spoke to them about, you know, the grandparents' room. They wanted that one room very, very warm, and they were able to accomplish that. We know when we walk in the door, the temperature's going to be right where we like it. So it's been wonderful having Kate's heating and cooling. We love it.
You may not hear it at first, but it's there. Our chant, rising. On this summit, callings converge, voices unify into a chorus that sounds out for good, for greatness. Can you hear it?
Hi.
I'm not letting you in. No more apps.
But I can let you gain Kansas lottery points. Enter second chance drawings, win more. Points can go to any prize you want.
Any prize?
Yeah. Play on, man.
Okay, you can come in. But don't ask me to update you right away.
I mean, we hardly know each other.
Oh, right.
With the Play On app, you can gain more points and win more. See kslottery.com for details.
get it into Coleman. He'll bring it up the floor. The southpaw takes it across midcourt. Coleman dribbling between his legs. They kick to Febres for the win. He missed, and KU will hang on. You can rock. Chalk it up. The Jayhawks survive 80-78. How about that? 10 straight wins over Texas in the series. They've only ever won once in Allen Fieldhouse. Welcome back to Hawk Talk. Terrific crowd on hand tonight. Give yourselves a round of applause. We appreciate you. In our crowd, we have our head Hawk tonight. Jeff Long's here with his lovely wife, Fanny, and his daughter, Christina, who's been wearing the crimson and blue all winter break long. We appreciate you guys for being here as well. All right, let's close it down. We got to get a preview of West Virginia.
How do you go from crimson and blue to black and gold, though? That would be a tough transition, wouldn't it?
Doesn't she look better in the crimson and blue?
Well, yes, I would think so, without question. But that'd be a tough transition.
Well, you know, and Ochai's sister, Ori, who's an outside hitter for Texas, she was in the stands the last couple of games supporting her brother, and she initially had her Texas letter jacket on last night, and she peeled it off. So I like that. She had that number 30 jersey on underneath. All right, quick preview of West Virginia. What do you anticipate? Obviously, they're down big at the half right now, but you'll get them on Saturday at 1 o'clock.
They'll be ready to play, and certainly we've had great games against Bob throughout the years, and they always seem to play very well against us in Morgantown, as they do here. But don't look at the record. They've been playing hurt all year long, and I see their guys are playing tonight with the exception of Kanate, so they'll be ready to go.
All right, that's 1 o'clock on Saturday up in Morgantown. Coach, as always, thanks for the time.
Okay, thank you.
That's head coach Bill Self. Tonight's top question will go with Lenny. He asked about the game of one-on-one between Coach Underwood and Coach Self. Lenny, you win a 2-night stay at the Oriad Hotel. For Steve Kincaid and head coach Bill Self, I'm Brian Haney saying so long from Johnny's Tavern, West Lawrence on the Jayhawk IMG Sports Network.
You've been listening to Hawk Talk with Bill Self on the Jayhawk IMG Sports Network. Tune in each week to get the latest on Jayhawk basketball from the head coach, Bill Self. Tonight's edition of Hawk Talk has been presented by Boulevard Brewing Company, local since 1989. Capital Federal Savings, celebrating 125 years. By Johnny's Tavern, serving up tradition since 1953 in Lawrence and Kansas City area. And by Intrust Bank, proud supporter of Kansas athletics. Hawk Talk with Bill Self is an exclusive presentation of IMG, America's home for college sports.